My mother was Cuban, my father was American, of French background, but my family left. I was the first son born in the States after the Revolution. My parents left during the Revolution. And we lived in the Bahamas, in Texas, and then spent a lot of time in the Côte d'Ivoire and in Sudan. And so living in this sort of at-home Cuban-American environment and then going to school in South Texas or spending time in Sudan, it definitely left a sense of otherness. Maybe the kind of outsider status. I wasn't sure I was Latino. I'm not a Latino. My mother, her name was Juanita, and she had an accent, and she felt sometimes discriminated against because she was Latina. And she kind of encouraged us not to present ourselves as Latin in school. All of this stuff as a kid, I really didn't know how to define myself. I suppose that was one of the contributing factors in becoming an artist.
When your mother passed away 20 years ago, immediately afterwards you created the ballet Romeo and Juliet in her honor. What was that like for you?
My first part of my career was making quite aggressive, what I thought of as postmodern ballets. They were ballet language stuck in a kind of meat grinder, mashup with other bits. And my mother really was very supportive, but she always said, "Oh, darling, why can't you make a pretty ballet?" And after my mom passed away, I thought, you know what, I should make a pretty ballet. And Romeo and Juliet seemed to go for the jugular in that regard.
And if your mother was alive today, what would she say about Septime Webre 20 years later?
She'd probably say, "Oye, Septime, I'm so proud of you, but can you make something about that's a little bit more intellectual than Alice in Wonderland?" And I'd have to say, Mother, Alice in Wonderland is not the cartoon. It's a really deep, complicated story. And she'd say, "Okay, that's very nice."
It is indeed one of your more colorful shows.
Sure.
You've also taken a show like The Nutcracker and given it a very Washington, D.C. edge. Why do that?
I wanted parents or grandparents or older people who might bring young people that they really wanted to love the ballet. I wanted to have in the production some things that they could talk about to their kid. So many people go to the ballet and they don't know much about ballet, and they might have really enjoyed it but don't have the tools to talk about it. These are things that someone in today's society can relate to when they see. We all think of ourselves here as Americans. And also things that I think parents can talk to young people about.
In 2000, you actually took your company to Cuba, the first American company to perform there in about 60 years.
Right.
What was that feeling like, given the political and economic embargo against Cuba?
Well, I was, on a personal level, I was brimming with pride that I could go to my sort of the motherland and work there, something that I just hadn't imagined beforehand. It was not my intent at the time to be political. It was, we artists are of the world, we're citizens of the world. But I was cognizant that we could contribute to the body politic by sharing our art, and through shared art there's a shared or increased understanding between people, and where there's a shared appreciation or increased appreciation, hopefully governments will eventually follow suit. They'll follow the people's will.
What was it like to grow up in a family of the number 7 out of 9 children?
It was chaos. It's 8 brothers and 1 sister. My sister was the baby. There was just a lot of wild times. Wonderful organized chaos, with emphasis not on organized. My parents really emphasized education and a sense of doing good in the world. And they also emphasized the professions. So I think they would have been happier if I'd gone off to be that lawyer, or say I was going to be a doctor. But it was because education was emphasized. I think art was also valued, and I'm happy that that worked out that way.
Did that culture, that environment that allowed you to express yourself, did that affect you and shape you as an adult?
I think the freedom that was present. You know, I was in a big family filled with lots of love, and there's a kind of security of safety net I knew no matter what I was doing, I wasn't going to get kicked out of the family. I wasn't going to, there was always going to be some safety net there. You can take some risks when you got a safety net.
Did you never worry about disappointing anyone?
Actually, I really worried about it, and I still do. And that gave me, as a matter of fact, to the contrary. I think because I chose an unorthodox path, I was very driven to prove it was a good path. And so many dancers work hard in the ballet career as a technician, as artists, but I knew it wasn't enough because I knew there was going to be, at age 30 or 35, I was going to retire and there had to be some other life. I just always brought to the table some additional hard work. And I also bring a kind of optimism, an optimism that I credit back to probably my Cubanness and maybe my status as an immigrant to the United States, that kind of can-do optimism that I kind of was bred in me, I think helps inform the decisions I make.